Hello and welcome to my channel. Today it's a bright day here in the Netherlands and I thought it was the perfect time to film because I've been trying quite a bit of things over the past couple of months, actually also during the end of 2022, and I feel like it's fun to share what are my current favorites within all those purchases. So I have some things that I honestly only tested out this week but that are instant favorites, and then I have a couple of things that I've been trying over the past couple of months, but that have quickly become staples in my routine. And I'll supplement with whatever is an all-time favorite or something. So I think this is a fun video to do to wrap up the month. I won't do this every month, but every once in a while I'll do a wrap up. I'll do a wrap up of the previous weeks. So real quick before we get started, thank you so much for clicking on my video. My name is Cecile, I live in the Netherlands and I upload twice or sometimes 3 times a week with makeup related content. I also do a couple of fashion videos every now and then. I like to focus on drugstore to luxury, indie makeup, everything in between. I just love makeup a lot and I love sharing whatever I find with you, and I also love reusing my older products. So if that all sounds interesting to you, then please consider subscribing, and now let's get right into this full phase of current favorites. So I always like starting with my eyes, and since I don't really have a new eyeshadow primer, I'm just going to use one that I have been liking, but that's not available anymore. This is the BU Eye Base. So I haven't been buying a lot of eyeshadow palettes over the past couple of months, but I did buy a couple of very good ones at the end of 2022, which I guess I didn't really share a lot about. I'm not even sure if these made it into my yearly favorites because they were sort of in limbo between the end of 2022 and the start of the year. So the two palettes I'm talking about are the Michaela Tempan palette and the Frosted Flakes palette, both from Glamlight. And I've been, especially this one, I've been wearing a lot. Also, I love all Glamlight's palettes. I've been wearing the Michaela ones a lot anyway. So I decided to pick up the Tempan at some point because I was very much intrigued by this pale green minty shade that's in here. I love Glamlight's light shimmers and I also love all their other shades, but especially those. So I thought this would be a fun one. And I've used that a couple of times, but I've mainly been using this one, which is of course very pretty. You can do a beautiful all blue look, a beautiful all orange look. You can combine them. I've loved pairing the oranges with the black. I think that's also really pretty. So for today, I'm going to put this one aside because I have been using it a lot. So we're going to go into my other favorite, the Michaela Tempan. I've actually liked combining this with her original or her other big palette in the part 2 series. And I thought since I pretty much only use the greens in here, why not use the more brownie shades for today? So I'm taking this fluffy crease brush and I'm going into the shade Chorco. It's right here. It's a medium intensity matte brown. I don't do fully neutral looks very often, but I'm gonna do one today. This is getting intense really quickly and I don't hate it, but I had no idea that this shade was so deep. So I'm also putting it underneath the lower lash line, connecting it to the outer corner. Just a very usual look for me. Whenever I do neutrals, I like to make them really dramatic. So I think that's already pretty dark, but I am very interested in seeing what this shade would add to the mix. So I'm going into Tea Time, which I think is a more cool toned, even deeper brown. This is actually quite similar to the crease that I get whenever I use Pat McGrath Mothership 5, which is one of my all-time favorites. But you have that sort of deep aubergine shade in there. It's very similar. Oh, by the way, quick disclaimer, there may be a couple of things in here that I haven't really talked about in speed reviews yet, so that will be coming up. I'm still trying these things out for some of them. So this is just what I feel like at the current moment. And then there are also maybe a couple of things that I've really loved in recent videos that I do not mention here, and that's just because they're too new, or I'm just not sure, or there are too many options. It doesn't mean I didn't really love them. Just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, this looks pretty cool. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Now for the shimmers, I'm a little bit conflicted because I feel like this brown shade would just look beautiful with this and make a very classic smoky eye, but I also really love the way this one looks. I'll swatch them both. So this is the Butterfly, it's that classic brown blue, and this is Steady, which is just a dark bronze shade. So I'm going to take Teddy. I'm just going to stick with what I originally planned. And this is still a pretty deep shade. And I really love Glamlite shimmers. I do love them most when they're a little bit brighter and a little bit more colorful. I feel like they simply sparkle the most that way. But I mean, this is very pretty too. Just going back with that original brush, blend out the edges. So now I think I'm going to add a pop of color, and I'm going to use this, my favorite shade, Blossom. That beautiful pale minty shade, and I'm going to put that in my inner corner. And I'm going to blend it into the brown shimmer. And you may notice that this green shade is actually not quite as light as one might prefer for an inner corner highlight for my skin tone. I think on most skin tones it's fine, but I know that Michaela is actually just as pale as I am. Maybe even a little bit paler. I don't know, just something I was wondering. And now we need something right over there. And I think I might just go into the Butterfly. I'm using the same brush and I'm just filling in the gap between the minty shade. Oh, this is actually a little bit lighter than I thought. I thought it was pretty dark, but alright, this is going to be my eye look. It's pretty dark, but I think I do like it. And I actually have an eyeliner. This is not a favorite or anything, because I actually haven't tried it yet, but I feel like the shade is just so perfect that I want to try it out with you right now. And this is the Relove kohl eyeliner from Makeup Revolution's sub-brand Relove. I don't have too high hopes for this because it was under €2, but who knows. So it's a regular pencil and it matches the inner corner so beautifully that I want to see if it works as an eyeliner. Alright, not bad. I had to get it started a little bit, but it works out. It's not the most pigmented green, but it does work. It does do what I want it to do. See, on my hand it swatches pretty pigmentedly. Then for my upper lash line, I'm just taking a black eyeliner from Essence. I know a dark brown would be pretty too, but I am going to put on lashes, so black is better. I'm putting on my Catrice Lift Up Power Hold mascara, whatever's remaining of it. I didn't really try a new mascara yet that I really love. So I did try quite a few pairs of lashes over the past couple of months, and I have a couple of favorites. The most recent pair that I really loved is this one from Catrice. This is their in their Dear Universe collection in the style I Am Happy. And I think I'll wear these. But I also want to let you know that I really love those Minnie Mouse lashes from Makeup Revolution as well. So I think these are pretty easy to apply. I like the way they're visible but not too dramatic. The only thing that I don't really love is that the inner corner is a little bit stiff. But I think this is perfectly doable. So I took off the fallout with a makeup wipe. This is the eye look so far. I know it's very dramatic, especially since we don't have any face makeup, but I definitely have a lot of favorites there. I've been trying more primers than foundations and no concealers, so the balance is a little bit off, but I tried to pick my favorites within everything that I tried. And there are quite a few of them, but my recent obsession has been this Super Base from Makeup Revolution. I know this is supposed to be a dupe for the Bobbi Brown vitamin enriched face base, and I have never tried that one, but I do know that I love this one. It's such a thick cream, but it absorbs well into the skin and it doesn't leave a very greasy finish on your skin. So it feels extremely hydrating. It makes that your foundation lays nicer on top of your skin, and it does hydrate through the day. But like I said, it's not too greasy or anything. I have tried one new foundation. It's not exactly favorite status. I feel like it's the Catrice Nude Drop. I do like it, I do wear it, but it hasn't become exactly a favorite. But I did try a couple of foundations near the end of 2022, and my favorites of those are the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation in the Dewy finish and the CC Plus Nude Glow. So we're going to put one of these on, and I think it's going to be the Wet n Wild. This one has a bit more coverage, the other one has less coverage and is also a bit more metallic. I love both of them for all reasons that I just mentioned, or all aspects that I just mentioned. It's just whatever I'm in the mood for. I don't really love this applicator though. I have to scoop some out on the back of my hand. I feel like it gets messy very easily. I also feel like I'm almost done with this bottle already, which is crazy. The great thing about both of these foundations is that the undertones are actually really good for me. So this one is in Soft Ivory, which is a fair with yellow undertones. And for such a cheap foundation, I'm always impressed when they have different undertones available, because that's really important for me. If a foundation is a little bit too pinkish, it'll look weird on me and I won't wear it. So this has a pretty luminous finish on its own, so I don't really need to pair it with any of my very highlighty primers. But I still feel like it benefits from the Super Base. So this is what the foundation looks like. Like I said, it's pretty full coverage, and I wasn't shy in my application today. But it's also really nice and glowy. The concealer that I've been loving is the Charlotte Tilbury concealer. I've also been loving a couple of other ones, but they are even older. This is the one that's most recent that I've been loving. It has a good medium buildable coverage. If you don't put on too much, and then the coverage is of course a little bit lower, but then I find that it doesn't crease too much. I like the fact that it has a slightly luminous finish. I've been loving matte full coverage concealers again as well lately, but this one just keeps coming back in my routine. So while I let this sit a little bit, let's move into the brows. The brow products that I'm going to use today are not necessarily new. Actually, these are more all-time favorites that I've implemented in my daily routine, because I like them more than what I've been trying recently. So what I've been doing lately when I don't use my Pink Honey is that I use the Brow Fix Shaping Wax from Catrice as sort of a first layer in my brows. The hold is not as good as the Pink Honey, but it does look a lot more natural, and you can also use this after your foundation, which I also find very useful. So now I have to leave that to set as well, but I think we can jump back into the concealer. I just use my foundation brush to tap it out. And then the last pieces I do with my finger. So we're looking pretty luminous today, but I do have a couple of cream products that I've been excited about lately. Recently, I mean, that that I want to try out more. So I've selected 2 cream blushes that have been my current obsession. So the first one is the Yummy Skin Flushed from Danessa Myricks. I have mine in the shade Jubilee. I've been wearing this almost every day. Even when I'm wearing something else originally, I find myself tapping this on top of it later in the day. So this is the shade that I have, and it would look beautiful with this. So I think we're going to go with this one. It's it feels so nice. It's a reddish, orangey, terracotta, hint of pink, really nice shade that just for some reason looks really good on my skin. And I also love the way it sort of adds a little bit of glow to a matte foundation, but it also adds a little bit of madness to a glowy foundation. So it just sort of gives me whatever I need at that moment. Then my other favorite is this one from Catrice. I actually have 2 shades, but this is my favorite. This is in the shade number 1, Worth It. And I think the shade is actually pretty similar to the Danessa Myricks, but this is a lot more balmy. And I guess the shade is a little bit more pinky red, and this one is a little bit more orangey red. They're really not all that different. I think I'll go with the Catrice for today. But before I do that, I actually have discovered another product that's a little bit older but new to me. And that is the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder from Danessa Myricks, just the original foundation type one. But I've been using this one as a setting powder. So exactly what I described with the blush is also how I use this. So I use it underneath my eyes, a bit on my nose, in my T-zone, just like I use a regular powder. But for some reason, this one just looks so much better than regular powder underneath my eyes. Yes, it will crease a little bit, but honestly not that much, and I can just tap it out and it'll look quite smooth. I don't know, it just looks pretty. Whenever I use normal powder, after a couple of hours, it either starts creasing or it just looks a little bit dry. And I don't have that problem with this one. I also like the way that it doesn't really alter the finish of whatever you put underneath, but it does provide a little bit more coverage. And it sort of evens out the area. So I put it here, and you see it's still glowy and nice, just not as insanely glowy. But there aren't any bald spots in my foundation here. And I feel like there are over here. I just feel like it does really nice things for my makeup, and it also really sets it down. And I like wearing this whenever I go out because I go on my bike and I sweat a little bit. And this stuff also works really well to absorb excess sweat if it's not too excessive. And then it also absorbs excess oils. The only thing is that if you're wearing a really glowy foundation like I am now, like I said, it doesn't really alter the finish. So you're going to keep a little bit of shine in every area. So just know that whenever you wear that combination, you're going to have a glowy skin day. But sometimes I do use a little bit of powder just over here to prevent that. So now I'm going in with the Catrice. It has a little mirror in there as well. And one of the beauties of using the balm powder as setting powder is that you can actually put cream products on top, which means that I can do this thing where I put my blush really high and it won't be covered up by any powder. So I've been loving this lately. I have these green, purpley, in this case more brown eyes, and then I put on a nice red toned blush or a little bit more orange, and I've been loving it. So now let's jump back into the brows. So you've seen these products a million times, but I still use them all the time. These are still the original ones that I bought, and I use them almost daily. So this is the microfilling brow pen from Benefit in the shade Blonde. I use that to color in bigger parts of my brows. And then I use the NYX Lift and Snatch in the shade Taupe to add a little bit of dimension and also a little bit deeper brow hairs wherever I need them. And then what I've been adding to this process recently, and I do this later in the day as well, and it just freshens everything up, is that I use this brow gel from Kruidvat. But I do think it's very similar to the new Wow Thick Brow Gel from Essence. I use this in the shade Blonde, and on its own this is not strong enough to hold my brows. And on its own the Catrice Brow Gel starts falling down as well. But for some reason, whenever I use them in combination with each other, it just creates this perfect brow that stays in place. And if it starts looking a little bit dull, a little bit lifted, the color is starting to fade a little bit. Since this is a tinted brow gel, I can just add a little bit more later in the day and it'll freshen everything up nicely. So this routine takes a little bit longer for me than what I used to do, but I do think these brows look intense, but a little bit more natural than with my Pink Honey. So I'm not going to put on any highlighter. I don't even have a favorite highlighter. I did pull out this one. This is from NYX, and this was from their Fate collection with Wings. And I really love both of these shades. Actually, I'm going to put on a little bit of this one. But this is definitely a little bit older. I'm not even sure if it's available anymore. But I haven't been buying a lot of highlighters. And I'm not even one of those people that have completely stopped wearing highlight. I actually wear highlight all the time. But for some reason, I haven't been buying them a lot. So I'm going into the green side. I've definitely used the pink side even more, but I love both of them. But this green is just perfect with the inner corner that I have. And these are very glittery highlights. But I love the fact that you get a 2-in-1. And I like the fact that they have more of a sheer base. So they work very well on top of my very highly placed blush. So one of the final steps in my routine is usually bronzer these days. Whenever I'm wearing a bit of a more matte foundation, I always like to wear a cream bronzer. But whenever I feel like I'm very glowy and I use the Danessa Myricks balms, then I like to go in with a bit of powder. And my go-to has been this one from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the same powder that you can find in her Filmstar Bronze and Glow. And I just use a little bit of this more matte creamy powder to add a touch after I've done all the other things. It just adds that little bit of structure and it takes away a little bit of that shine. Now all that we have left is lips, and I would be lying if I would not select this little product here from NYX as my favorite lip product for the past 4 weeks or something. So this is the Fat Lip Drip Oil from NYX. I have it in 2 shades. I've been using both of them a lot, but I guess my greatest love is the brown one. So I have the pinky one. You can see how much I've used them. The pinky one in the shade Mist Call, and then the brown one in the shade Scrollin. This is the second to darkest brown shade that they offer. And I just love these, just with a lip liner or with something else underneath. It both look great. And we're going to do that today as well. And the lip liners that I've been loving to wear with these are always from Glamlight. I've been buying their lip kits for the past year or something. The Michaela ones, this one from Frosted Flakes, the Barbie ones, and I'm wearing all of them. They're all brown or pinky shades. And I just really love this formula. I guess these Glamlight lip kits have got me into wearing lip liner at all. So this is more of a medium cool tone brown. So I just used that one, and then I used the lip oil from NYX on top. And it just blends in together. I find the brown one is a little bit more pigmented than the pink one. So, I hope this video wasn't too long. I had a lot of fun applying all of these favorites to my face. I like the finished look. This has been a go-to look for me. It's either been this or something very blue with that other Glamlight palette. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you did like it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.